Okay, it looks like we are now streaming. The virtual statement is on the agenda packet. It is included there. We are starting to now use Zoom webinar so that anyone can register as an attendee, as an observer and participate in the meeting that way. You are all registered as panelists so that you have immediate access into the meeting and full functionality. But this will allow anyone from the public to take part in the meeting rather than only be limited to viewing on YouTube. We're still going to be recording to YouTube, but the public participation guide has been updated and there's a link at the box on the top of the agenda packet. I understand from yesterday's CBTA TAC meeting and hopefully not today, but it may take a few meetings for everyone to get used to this and receive the updates from Zoom with the registration or link to the meeting. So I appreciate everyone's patience. I think in the long run, this is going to be helpful so that we can use the same format for all of the different meetings and work groups that we host. Madam Chair, I think that's probably a quick overview. If anyone has any questions or issues still with being able to get into the meeting, please let me know, and we can work with you individually to make sure that we figure out the issues with that.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Yeah, I was wondering about all the emails, but that makes perfect sense now. Did you also want to go ahead and introduce Janice?
Yes, that would be a great idea. Thank you. For those of you who haven't met Janice, Janice Firestone is working with us now and is going to be our program coordinator for all TPO and CBTA activities. She is in her second full week on the job and is being thrust into the thick of things and is going to be probably your main point of contact, much like Nicole was previously for meeting logistics and agendas and that type of work. So please, if you have questions or concerns about meetings and agendas moving forward, or if you need to get things included on agendas, most importantly, please include Janice in your correspondence, and we'll move forward together. So Janice, welcome. I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I am, please bear with me. I am new to Zoom, so I will do my best, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
If you could please do the roll call, you or Chad or whoever.
Certainly. Town of Ashland, Miss Amos.
Here.
Chesterfield County, Miss Smith.
Here.
Miss Walker.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Campbell. Hanover County, Mr. Vajunas.
Here.
Mr. Flagg. Henrico County, Vice Chair Smidler.
Here.
Mr. Ure. New Kent County, Chair Ledoux.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Powhatan County, Mr. Shardine. City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Bridewell.
Here.
Capital Region Airport Commission, Mr. Rutledge. DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Here.
Mr. Sparks. GRTC, Ms. Torres. Ms. Del Ross.
Here.
Plan RVA, Mr. Parsons.
Here.
Mr. Ariel.
Here.
Ridefinders, Ms. Tisdale. Mr. O'Keefe. RMTA, Ms. Simmons. VDOT, Ms. McAdory,
Here.
Ms. Mueller.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the roll call, and we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Were there any changes to the agenda we need to talk about?
No changes.
All right, great. We'll move along to the minutes from last month's meeting. Anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, can I get a motion?
I'll move for approval of the minutes. It's Barb.
Thank you, Barb.
This is Nora, second.
Thank you, Nora. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstain? All right, minutes are approved. Did we have any public comments? Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to see any of that, but do you guys have any?
We have not received any public comments, but I do see that John O'Keefe is in the attendees room, so I'm going to move him over.
Okay. Nobody else over there?
No, TPO staff is there, but no one else from the public.
Okay, great. We'll move on then. Chairman's report, I don't have anything, but I will ask us about something later when we get to the next meeting. Item 5, we're going to move into the TPO update.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to just take a few minutes of your time to talk about a couple upcoming items. First of all, the Fall Transportation Forum is coming up in November. It's going to be in Powhatan County. Mr. Williams is excited about hosting it, and we are starting to talk about possible topics. Some of those topics include federal reauthorization, assuming there may be news to share at that point. Updates on the fall line. There are lots of things in the works right now through VDOT and CBTA. So there may be news to share at that point. Kind of a celebration of the first year of the CBTA is another topic that has been raised, especially by elected officials. And then we're still working on other ideas, and it's on the agenda today to raise the request for TAC help in identifying topics that may be timely or interesting to cover for the forum. If anybody is brand new on TAC that hasn't been around for this, we didn't do one last year. But the forum is typically held every fall for the last 8 or 9 years, and is hosted by the locality where the chair of the TPO resides. The last forum was in Ashland, and we talked about rail. So there was a lot of great conversation there. It was held at Randolph-Macon. So it rotates every year to kind of get a flavor of the region. And we're looking forward to that. So please, if you can think of anything that would be timely, please let me or Janice know, and we'll start working on those topics. Could be technology, could be policy, could be current planning in the region, could be any big projects that are going on. I think the sky's the limit. So I just wanted to put that out there for everybody. The next item on the agenda is the current work efforts. I'll be giving an update this morning on the long-range transportation plan. There is work ongoing on the bicycle pedestrian plan update. And right now, the hope is to have that back to TAC for review and hopeful recommendation for adoption following the approval of the long-range plan. So October, November timeframe for TAC consideration. That is being wrapped up right now. We're working on finalizing the process for assembling the plan and hoping to probably use replicate some of the things we put in place for the Connect RVA plan in terms of appearance and packaging and sharing options. The Ashland Trolley Line study is still moving forward. We actually have staff in the field today with the National Park Service looking at some of the historic significance of the trolley line corridor and how we can hopefully incorporate some of those details with development of the fall line. A lot of places it coincides with the same right of way. So that's moving forward too. Really focusing, like I said, on the history of the trolley line, and we're possibly looking at a design sketchbook product through our partnership with the National Park Service. Vision Zero work group is meeting Thursday morning for an update from VHB and our friends at VDOT to give an update on the development of the regional action plan. So that should be exciting, and it should be, I think the update is going to be fairly significant. So tune into that if you're able. And I believe that is the update. I wanted to call on, actually, I'm going to move Ken over from being an attendee. I wanted to see if Ken, when he's able to join, can give an update on the CTAC meeting that's planned for this week. So Ken, welcome. If you can unmute and just give a brief overview of what's going on with the CTAC, I think that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me? Our next meeting is this coming Thursday, and we have two presentations slated. We're going to hear from a representative from the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute about some of the work they're doing around heavy trucks and connected trucks and what the future holds for that. Been a lot, going on in that area. So we're looking forward to that presentation. Also going to hear from Robin Payne. She is the executive director of what's called Drive to Work. It's a program that assists people in regaining their driver's license. Sometimes when folks have, been issued DUIs and have suspended their licenses, their program helps people to regain their mobility. So that should be an interesting presentation as well. We're also going to talk a little bit about our CTAC membership. We have a number of vacancies, and we think that it's time to sort of fill some of those vacancies. So that'll be on the agenda as well. So be glad to take any questions.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Kelly, that's it for the TPO update.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks, Ken. Want to keep going, Chet, or is Sulab going to take this?
No, I'm going to do it, and let me
All right.
try and share my screen.
We're nearing the end.
That's right. Okay. Does everybody see the full screen slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I see your presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Hang on one second.
I think you can switch it under display settings. Do you see it on the upper left?
How about that?
There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
That
Okay.
looks good, yep.
Great. So this was a presentation that was originally given to the policy board earlier this month with a couple modifications, but I wanted to put it in front of all of you as the practitioners so that you had an idea of what is coming in the at the October 4th policy board meeting. And I know many of you connect back with your elected representatives to advise on upcoming actions. So the hope here is that that we can have an approval of the plan at that October 4th meeting. As we move through this, if anyone has questions or comments, or more importantly, concerns, please interrupt or let me know, and we can address those before we get to that decision meeting. So an overview of the planning process, it's very similar to a comprehensive plan. If you've been on the advisory committee for the LRTP, this is kind of going back to the beginning, and I'll go through the process that we followed. The first thing to identify are the issues. We had our first phase of public engagement was identification of issues in the region, problem spots, hotspots. We did a wiki map, which helped the public engage, and I believe we got over 1,000 comments on the wiki map. We were able to then take those issues to start developing the universe of projects, which is all of the possible projects that could help to reduce or alleviate the issues that were identified. At the same time, a concurrent process was development of the vision, goals, and objectives. This was another phase of public engagement that we went through to identify a vision statement for the plan as well as goals. And the most important thing this time around was quantifiable objectives, something we can measure and track over time to gauge our effectiveness in implementing the plan. The second big departure from the 2040 plan was developing performance measures that could be scored, ranked, and prioritized. And this was a pretty complex process using a couple different inputs, the most notably being the travel demand model, the cube model that we've modified and made a bunch of adjustments to, and GIS analysis tools to look at equity, environmental impacts, and other associated performance measures. Once the scoring, ranking, and priorities were done, we were able to develop this cost possible plan. So narrowing down the universe of projects to something that is actually implementable based on estimated budgets that we worked with our state partners as well as CBTA to identify, and then coming up with evaluation and improvement and how we can adjust this plan as needed when new projects are identified, when projects are implemented and can come off the rolls, and then moving forward, technical appendices that have lots more detail on all the aspects of the plan. So the vision is very comprehensive and understands all of the options that people thought were important, whether it's equity, reliability, safety, health, strong economy, and environmental stewardship. So there's 5 goals: safety, environment, land use, equity and accessibility, economic development, and mobility. And under each of these, if you could, you see the sub headings under mobility. There are, as I mentioned, the data-driven objectives that can be quantified through available data, something that is not too intensive in terms of developing these resources so that we can, over time, track our effectiveness and and really report on what the plan is doing and how we're performing over time in terms of taking projects off of the plan and actually bringing them to reality. So changes since the 2040 plan. Smart Scale had another round, and before this plan, the options for funding programs were federal and state allocations, the traditional 80-20 split, Smart Scale applications, and then Virginia regional authorities. Before this plan, there were two authorities, one in Hampton Roads, one in Northern Virginia. Following the 2020 General Assembly, we created the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. And as you all know, there's three pots of money there. Local needs, 50% of the taxes collected go back to local governments for project development. 15% go directly to GRTC, and then 35% is set aside in a regional pot for regionally significant transportation projects. And yesterday, the CVTA TAC focused on that regional 35% and is nearing the conclusion of developing the process for identifying the regional priorities for the CVTA. So that's ongoing with the development of this plan. So following the development of the Connect RVA 2045, we now have a dedicated partner in the CVTA to help fund projects identified through this long-range planning process. So we can really go from concept phase, from the issue to concept to planning level project to engineering project to construction. So it's exciting, and it's something that the region hasn't had at its disposal before. It also gives us the ability to leverage funds and make more money out of what we have. That's something the CVTA is going to be working on this next 12 months to start to develop options for not just pay-as-you-go project development, but leveraging funds through bond market and possibly other means, and making the money go farther to help implement more of the needs that have been identified for the region. So quickly going through some of the transportation issues. The first thing that staff did was review regional and local plans and studies, and we were able to pull, I believe it was maybe 41 plans that have been completed or are underway around the region to identify projects that have already been proposed, projects that are priorities for member governments. We also included recommendations provided by LRTP advisory committee members, so many of you as well as other stakeholders in the community. And then through the travel demand model, we're also able to look at future issues that may arise under a no-build situation. So looking at existing and committed projects moving forward, what are the bottlenecks? What are the choke points? Where are the high congestion areas projected to be in the year 2045? So that's something we were able to take from the travel demand model to help influence what the issues might be and where the main problem areas might arise. Overall, 1,089 total transportation issues identified for the region. 555 of those were considered regionally significant based on the thresholds that were set in place by the advisory committee. So that's our foundation for project testing and prioritization in the planning process. 127 of those issues were related to a need identified through VTrans. 272 issues were related to policies and programs or justification for additional study. So those didn't really apply in terms of developing our budget. And directly from the public, we received 135 distinct issues that were shared with us through the public engagement process. Overall, we looked at, we had a number of different phases, as I mentioned, in public engagement, 900, almost 1,000 completed surveys for the vision and goals of the plan. 124 unique locations were identified in our wiki map for problem and hotspots. We had 265 ideas for vision statements that were submitted by members of the public. And then just under 900 comments were received on our universe of projects when that was shared through an additional wiki map. The priorities that were developed through our engagement process are shown on the left side of your screen. Those started off with safety and then ranged down to environmental quality, accessibility, land use, economic development, and congestion mitigation. 101 completed surveys to take these priorities from. And then another option we had in our, I believe it was our vision goals survey through MetroQuest was the classic $100 survey question. How would you spend $100 on transportation? And based on the responses we received, those are listed in order of amount from top to bottom on the right side of the screen. So we looked at, as I mentioned earlier, regionally significant projects. What are the projects that were projected that are considered that are regionally significant? And projects are either going to be regionally significant or local focus. We had a number of different thresholds for the different modes: transit, bike ped, highways are on the next page, intermodal, and bridges. So transit, just to go through a couple of these, things like new transit centers, which is something that was proposed, are considered regionally significant projects. Park and ride lots, anything that showed a net increase of 100 spaces or more was regionally significant. Anything under that was considered a local project. Bike and pedestrian facilities, we didn't consider neighborhood level improvements as regionally significant. They had to be part of multi-jurisdiction networks or filling significant gaps in an existing network. They were also regionally significant if they directly connected and supported transit service. So that allows us to focus on regionally significant bike ped improvements. Roads that were regionally significant included things like new interchanges and modifications, development of overpasses and underpasses, intersection improvements for major arterials and above, adding and removing lanes or changing the use of lanes to a different mode, like bus only lanes. Intermodal improvements focused on capacity changes in intermodal corridors with things like the Richmond Marine Terminal, the airport, major rail yards, et cetera. And then newer relocated rail stations were major improvements in that category. And then bridges were replacement or rehab of any structures on the National Bridge Inventory. So how can we realistically get there? We're now in the funding, the programming discussion. So what we have is a federal law that requires the TPO to develop a plan that reflects expected revenues over the lifetime of the plan, so out to the year 2045. So we worked with VDOT, DRPT, and GRTC to develop reasonable budgets for available funds through the year 2045. And the total investments are shown on the right side of the screen. But the thing to focus on here is when you take out maintenance and operations, we're really looking at a budget of $5.5 billion to focus on those regionally significant projects that there is still a need for. We take a step back from that $5.5 billion and look at all planned investments over the life of the plan. The splits are on the screen here. So highway construction is 26%. Highway maintenance is the major benefactor, and that's 41%. Active transportation is about 1%. Flexible funds, including lots of different sources that we've identified, is about 12%. And then transit specifically is 16%. And that includes not just capital outlays, but operations too. And if you take one more look at transit, and this was a question that Julie Tim had at the policy board meeting, If we're looking at transit-specific funds, capital funds, it's about 13% of the total transit outlay that was in that 16% on the last slide. The other sources are flexible funds like SDBG and Smart Scale and CBTA, air quality funds through CMAQ, and others. So the bulk of that transit pie piece was the flexible funds like Smart Scale, CBTA, and SDBG. The universe of projects, or actually this is the outlay of projects identified through the planning process. And when we break down the cost possible projects, if you look at the third column there, these are the projects that are actually included in the constrained plan. So out of 34 possible regionally significant active transportation projects, we were able to include 33 of them, so 97%. All of the bridges were included. Out of 184 possible projects that are highway related, 147 of those were able to be included in the plan. All park and ride projects that are regionally significant. 11 transit projects were deemed regionally significant, and 6 were included in the realistic plan. And the reason that 5 of those projects were not listed was because there is I think there's a desire and it makes good planning sense to go from current service to higher frequency before considering full BRT infrastructure. So the 6 projects that are included there's 1 full BRT project and then 5 high frequencies, so 15-minute service mid steps. So the hope is that we can do that 15% or the 15-minute service and then bump up to BRT sooner than 2045 and make sure that those improvements are tracked and given proper attention. There are no rail projects listed in this plan because we weren't able to break down the rail funding to a regional focus. Rail is a different animal that is statewide budgets. So we weren't able to compare apples to apples in terms of possible rail funding. We have the ideas of what the projects could be, but not the ability to project the budget. So we'll have to be working with the TPO. We'll have to work with the RPT moving forward to make sure that we get that focus on the rail improvements that's necessary to keep us moving forward. So one of the things that we were able to do with the data-driven assumptions and project prioritization was look at performance evaluations. So we looked at 5 different categories of performance testing: system-wide performance, transportation savings, economic impact analysis, environmental justice analysis, and accessibility. And 3 scenarios were used for most of these analyses. Base is basically what's on the ground in 2017. The no build is looking out to 2045 with all existing projects plus anything that's committed through the 6-year improvement program. And then the build condition is 2045 with full implementation of all of the projects in the constraint plan. So thinking about system-wide performance, the build condition, we saw decreases in congestion by 85 lane miles on the major arterials in the region, a decrease in overall travel time around the region. Mode share remains fairly constant, but transit mode share was increasing through the implementation of those 6 transit-specific projects. And then a VMT reduction of 25 million miles annually. So the per capita was projected out to regional impacts. Transit performance, ridership increases by 31% regionally, and personal miles traveled increases by 58%. What that means is more people were riding transit with the build condition, as well as they were riding for longer distances. So staying on the bus for a longer trip and riding the bus more. BRT mileage increases from 8 miles to 23 miles with the inclusion of the downtown Richmond to Ashland BRT. And then coverage doesn't expand dramatically because of shifts in the key population geographically with the new census information that we're seeing, as well as there are still pockets of key riders that don't have access because the transit network just doesn't extend to those kind of first ring suburbs that a lot of the new identified riders are living in or moving to. So that's something to work on. Bridges, we've identified 16 structurally deficient bridges that are included in the plan, in the funded plan. Park and ride lots increased from 8 to 22 lots, and that's a total of 2,600 spaces. And then active transportation, mostly because of the fall line, we see an increase in dedicated mileage by an additional 53 new miles, which brings us to almost 200 miles of regional active transportation infrastructure in the region. So now moving to transportation savings, operational benefit. These are annualized savings for the year 2045. You can see the operational benefit is upwards of $485 million over the, this is out to the year 2045. Safety, $120 million, and environment is $348,000. And this is net benefit, I believe. So we're looking at total operational safety and environmental benefits of $606 million through the development of the constrained plan. The economic impact, this is with the full implementation of the plan. So once we get to the year 2045, assuming the entire plan is implemented, we'll have been able to create 94,000 direct and indirect jobs, wages of 2.8 and 1.9 billion direct and indirect, respectively, and then output of roughly 15 billion direct impact to the GDP of the region. So this is something that we haven't been able to do before as part of this LRTP process. So it's exciting to be able to provide these types of summaries. And obviously this will change as the projects in the plan change. In terms of environmental justice, this was one of the things we used, we developed GIS tools to look at. We identified what we've called equity emphasis areas. Those are the areas in pink on the map, and focused on 6 key categories: people of color, people in poverty, zero-car households, older adults 65 and up, people with disabilities, and people with limited English proficiency. These are all census data sets. So we were able to apply the census geography to create that connection and the relationship to the equity emphasis areas. And the census geography, that's why you see a big portion of Charles City, just because the tracts are so large that they show up in that manner. So how do we do in terms of the projects and where they geographically lie in relation to these equity emphasis areas? The population of those pink areas is about 32% of the regional population, but 63% of the projects in the constrained plan serve these areas, and 59% of the dollars serve these equity emphasis areas. So if you look at per capita transportation investment, roughly twice as much per person is spent on the constrained plan in these equity emphasis areas, for a total of almost $3.5 billion over 132 projects in the equity emphasis areas. So that's good performance of the plan in terms of focusing on environmental justice needs. The next is accessibility. We want to look at jobs and destinations reachable by each mode within a reasonable travel time. So the focus here is net gain in accessibility across all modes. And we looked at destinations, we looked at jobs, but the destinations itself, were things like markets, healthcare facilities, schools, colleges, government centers, libraries, and parks. Region-wide, the equity emphasis areas, there were 747 jobs that were accessible per person per day through the development of the build scenario, and an additional 7.6 destinations. So again, good performance for the equity emphasis areas. Look at travel time by trip purpose. A smaller average travel time is better. And overall, the travel time is decreasing for all trip purpose in peak and off-peak hours. In the off-peak hours, focusing on the equity emphasis areas, the highlight I've added there, we see a decrease between the no build and build scenarios of 10 seconds. And that equates to roughly 14,000 hours of travel region-wide in savings of travel time. So good impacts between if we did nothing versus if we implemented the long-range plan. And then access to transit by walking and biking. We looked at 5-minute increments in terms of walking times from 5 to 30 minutes. And then biking times, we looked at 10-minute and 30-minute increments. And we see slight increases, slight improvements in accessibility through walking and biking across all of the build scenarios. So again, what happens next? The plan is under our final public review period. That ends tomorrow. Tomorrow, close of business. Tomorrow, close of business. It's been going on for 30 days now. There is one final public meeting tonight. October 4th, as I mentioned in the beginning, the policy board has it on the agenda for consideration of adoption. And then moving forward, we want to coordinate with the CBTA to help prioritize projects that are identified in the long-range plan and keep things moving forward, and do regular assessments of the long-range plan and revise it as needed. Historically, in the Richmond region, we haven't amended the plan. We've done a new one every 5 years, and that's about it. But my hope is that we can amend it and keep it as dynamic as possible and reflect the current needs of the region, so that we can go out and find those funds as we move forward. And then the next steps, on October 5th, we're going to start with the next planning process. And we want to do a full assessment of scenario planning, improve public engagement and stakeholder development, and other things as guided by you all, the TAC. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, unless I guess I'll leave it there. Are there any questions? Anything that you want me to go back on? If not, Kelly, I'll stop sharing and we can.
Okay, thank you, Chet. That was a great overview of the whole process. We already took action to forward to the policy board, right? Or do we need to do that?
I would recommend, if there is if TAC feels called to provide a recommendation, a direct recommendation from this meeting, supporting the adoption of the plan. The policy board will also get a recommendation from the advisory committee, but I think as much support as we can get would be great.
Yeah, I'm getting the two groups mixed up. We did take action at the last advisory meeting. But yeah, that's fine. If we can have somebody make a motion.
This is Sharon Smidler with Henrico. I just wanted to, if we do that, just condition it upon the public comment period ends tomorrow. So if we're recommending approval to the TPO, that we do it conditionally based on additional feedback received today and tomorrow. So I'm going to struggle through this motion then.
Do we have an attorney on the line? No, I'm just kidding.
So I make a motion to recommend approval of the long-range transportation plan, Connect RVA 2045, to the policy board on the condition that we take into account additional feedback during the public comment period.
Thank you, Sharon. That sounds good.
I'll second that. Barb Smith.
Thank you, Barb. Can we do a voice vote, or do you want to do roll call?
I'd recommend a roll call if that's okay, Kelly, but it's up to you. You're the chair.
Yes, that's fine. We can do a roll call. Janice, thank you.
Thank you. Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos.
Aye.
Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez.
Aye.
Henrico County, Vice Chair Smidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Chair LeDuc.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Aye.
GRTC, Ms. Del Ross.
Aye.
Plan RVA, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ridefinders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
And VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Thank you, everybody. I know it's been a long process, and when Chet said they were going to start over again on the 5th, I kind of chuckled to myself. So take at least a week or break or something. Okay, next there's a tip amendment to add a new project. Miles, are you going to take that one?
Yes, I am. So, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of TAC. This is a tip amendment request from VDOT to add a new project to the tip. Quick overview, the VDOT submitted one request and it is a new project. So we have to go through the full process, demonstrating conformity, constraint, a public review, and then TAC and policy board approval. Hopefully this one's really straightforward. This is an RSTP project that we selected in FY21. It's an IJR on 288 in the West Creek area. It's exempt for conformity purposes as a planning or technical study. And the total is $499,900, $399,920 is RSTP, and then the remainder is the state match. The action that we're requesting from TAC today is to recommend to the policy board to add this project to the tip and to further note that the project would be considered exempt from conformity under the rules of the conformity rule. So with that, I'm happy to answer more questions about the project.
Thank you, Miles. Any questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, this is Tom. I would make a motion that this tip amendment be approved as presented.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
This is Liz. I'll second. Liz McAdory.
Thank you, Liz. We have a motion and a second. We should probably do a roll call on this one too.
Sorry about that. Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez.
Aye.
Henrico, Vice Chair Smidler.
Aye.
New Kent County, Chair LeDuc.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Ms. Clark.
Aye.
DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Aye.
GRTC, Ms. Del Ross.
Aye.
Plan RBA, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ridefinders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
VDOT, Ms. McAdory.
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
All right, thank you, Janice. We'll move along to transportation agency updates. Tiffany, you're first.
Thank you so much, Kelly. So for the month of September, our agency update provided a copy, hopefully to Chet. So if there's any questions, there's also links in the agency update for reference. But it's some major highlights. We are still working underway with our transit equity and modernization study. Our first deliverable is in December. So we are working through some of the results from our surveying of our transit operators, as well as some of our baseline conditions. I hope that we will be able to provide more information at our future presentation to the TPO. I believe that might be in November. I will make sure to check on that. Besides that, we are also making a plug to everyone about Smart Scale Round 5. If there are any future transit or rail projects that you may have on the horizon, please reach out to us for technical assistance. We'd be glad to provide any assistance heading to the next round for Smart Scale. As a reminder, for our Transit Ridership Incentive Program, the deadline for applications is due this Friday, September 17th. We are also going to be accepting any supporting documentation through October 1st. So any letters of support, board approvals that may be associated with your application, we will accept through October 1st. And there's more information on DRPT's website about the TRIP program if there are any questions. Moving a little bit further, we did want to highlight a little bit that we are expanding the Virginia Breeze. So we are adding yet another route to our service. It is going to be called the Highlands Rhythm. This is now going to be along 81. It will provide daily northbound and southbound service connecting Bristol to the Union Station in DC. So there will be stops in Wytheville, Radford, Christiansburg, Salem, Roanoke, Harrisonburg, and then all the way up to Dulles and then West Falls Church. So we hope that will be launching hopefully in the next couple months. I believe that we are settling the procurement of the vendor that will be providing that service. Last, I'll just cover a little bit about rail. So as always, our Virginia Passenger Rail Authority is still kind of underway in terms of hiring and development. They are having their next meeting September 28th at the VDOT Central Auditorium. There will be a live stream available for that. The other thing I think I wanted to mention was that because of COVID, there were some delays by Amtrak in terms of their service. As of this month, I believe Amtrak is going to be resuming their service along the Northeast Corridor, as well as extending some of the passenger rail service. So now there'll be connections between Staples Mill to Main Street Station. If there's a question about more information about that, I can be glad to get some more for TAC. But as always, if there's any questions about BPRA, you can find it on their new website. It's not actually nested under DRPT anymore. It's vpra.virginia.gov. The last item on my agency update is a new grant program. So with all the transitions between DRPT and then VPRA, there are still some funding opportunities for freight enhancement. So there is a new grant program, another acronym to throw into the mix, Freight Rail Enhancement to Increase Goods and Highway Throughput, or FREIGHT. So there was a presentation provided to the CTV at their July board workshop. I provide a link to that copy of the presentation in the agency update. But this is supposed to be a funding program that will be able to utilize some of the Commonwealth rail funding available for planning purposes and rail projects that would not be administered by VPRA. So if you are thinking of any kind of potential projects, review the presentation. There should be information on eligible projects and applicants. The next steps are that they're going to finalize the program guidance, adoption by CTB, and then opening up the applications in December. And that is my agency update. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
That was a lot. Thank you, Tiffany.
I know.
Any questions for Tiffany? Okay, thank you. GRTC, Emily or Trisha, did you have any updates?
Morning. Just have a couple for you. My usual plug for the GRTC board meeting. That's a week from today, September 21st at 8 a.m. It will be live streamed on YouTube as usual, so we welcome you all to join. Additionally, both the microtransit study and the regional public transportation plan projects have kicked off. So we will be reaching out with the jurisdictions for stakeholder coordination in both of those. And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Emily. John, did you have an update for Ridefinders?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ridefinders is continuing to work on researching FY23 funding opportunities. We also submitted FY22 agreements to the City of Richmond and Chesterfield counties for approval. As Emily has said, we are working with GRTC on the micro transit study, working on biweekly updates with GRTC's Chief of Development Officer and on conference calls with Michael Baker International to review proposals and recommendations. Due to the school bus shortage, we have reached out to our vendor Agimile on developing an option for school pools in response to the bus shortages in the various counties. So that's something that we've started to look into. We did a little while back, but it's taken a little longer than anticipated. We have also collaborated with GRTC Planning and the Communications Department on messaging and information distribution for the upcoming Henrico route changes and service changes that happened on the 12th. We attended the J.L. Francis Elementary Back to School rally to distribute Ridefinders swag bags. These bags contained bike reflectors, rules of the road, pens, sports bottles, and the scholastic book, The Magic School Bus Gets Geared Up. We provided the Vanpool data update to the Department of Rail and Public Transportation for their annual report to the General Assembly. And last but not least, Ridefinders won the 2021 Association for Commuter Transportation's National Best Social Media Marketing Award for the Celebrate Earth Day Every Day Clean Air campaign. So another award for Ridefinders from ACT. So I'm happy to report that. And that's all I have, Madam Chair, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, John. Congratulations. That's awesome. Any questions for John? Okay. And Liz, do you have some VDOT updates?
Sure. Thanks. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
There is no CTB update because there was not an August meeting, but there will be a September meeting on 2 different days. September 14th is the workshop meeting at 10 a.m. September 15th, the action meeting at 9 a.m. As far as I know, it is still going to be at the VDOT auditorium. Just another reminder, I noticed for this last month about the local programs workshop. I think most of you are probably already aware, but the VDOT update does have a link to that registration site with all the information. It's going to be October 26th to 28th. And like I said, you can register from that link. Fall Line Trail, just an update. I think last month I let you guys know that VDOT was working on pulling all the data and information from localities together to try to figure out exactly what's unfunded. We're almost there. We've met with most of the localities, or at least communicated with everybody to get all of your feedback. We're still working with a couple localities in the Tri-Cities MPO. And I believe it's going to be VDOT. It might be OIP, but at the next CBTA full meeting, there'll be a presentation on, basically what is needed to complete the trail. Chet, you mentioned a little bit about that earlier. Just kind of want to give a shout out to MPO staff for the federal MPO certification with FHWA. That's a huge, huge lift on the staff's part. Just the review itself is a 3-day affair, essentially. So I just wanted to thank you guys and let the TAC know how much work they have to put into that. I know you guys still have some information that you're working on, and please let us know at the district if there's anything we can do. I think you're working with central office and then Pharrell on a couple things left. Is that right, Chet? Okay. But if you have any issues or need anything, just please let us know. Since Tiffany reminded me about Smart Scale Round 5, most of the localities, I think you guys are already working on RSTP CMAQ with Jake for validation. But if you know of something different that you're going to be applying for round 5, it's never too early to get started. If you want assistance from us, Same thing with RSVP CMAC. It could be as little as just refining a cost estimate or even validating an estimate. It could be concept development, the whole gamut. So just let us know. Huge announcement for us anyway. We do have a change to the alternate TAC members. We have a new VDOT staff member, Nicole. You guys are very familiar with her because she was at the TPO before. So I just want to recognize her. We're really excited to be fully staffed now in planning and feel like we can give the support we've been trying to give for the last couple of years. So thanks, Nicole, for joining our team. She's on the call today. Nicole, did you want to say anything? Put you on the spot.
There, I had to find my unmute button. I'm happy to be here. It's really nice to see everyone. I missed you guys, so it's good to be here. Thanks, Liz.
Liz, you're muted.
Oh, can't hear you, Liz.
Lucky you guys. The last thing I was just going to say, I normally give an update if there's public meetings or citizen information meetings, but there are none scheduled in the TPO area currently. And that is it.
Thank you, Liz. Glad we didn't lose you completely, Nicole. Future meeting topics, there's a list on page 12. I don't think there's anything specific we need to say about that. Does anyone have any TAC member comments? Okay. Next meeting, October 12th. I'm going to be out of town, so I will graciously ask Sharon if she could step in and chair that meeting. That would be great. If not, we'll have to find somebody else. And if there's nothing else, we can adjourn. Chet, did you have anything else?
I don't. Thank you all very much for your continued support.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.